Our story begins as a dark figure commands his army to rise. The lich Glock stands tall upon the shoulder of a skeletal giant. With a simple lift of his hands, we see the fallen soldiers on the battlefield transform into zombies, staggering back to their feet. Witnessing this, the NPC soldiers on the city walls are instantly shaken. One archer, pointing his bow at a skeleton below, speaks up. He cries out that it's his brother, Joseph, and that he's still alive. Meanwhile, other NPCs along the wall begin to react as well. The soldiers exclaim with joy, believing their families are alive, even spotting a younger brother named George among the ranks. Their initial rage and unity are instantly dissolved, replaced only by a desperate longing for their loved ones. Because they stopped their attack for just 30 seconds, a massive hole is torn through the city gate's protective shield. Iris shouts for the warriors not to be misled by the sorcery before them, claiming it is all an illusion. As she tries to boost morale, Glock turns his gaze toward her. He points a finger, releasing an invisible, transparent beam of light. The beam strikes Iris directly. Suddenly, she sees a vision of an innocent, lovely young boy running through a grassy field. He plays with dandelions before turning to wave at Iris, calling out for his mother to come and join him. The sword slips from Iris's grip and clatters to the ground. She falls to her knees, her eyes vacant, deaf to the shouts of those around her. Without the protection of Iris, the player's power drops significantly. A skeleton that once fell in one hit now requires 3. This delay makes holding back the enemy nearly impossible. If they cannot deal with Glock soon, the battle is lost. Eternal City will inevitably fall into his hands. Now, their only hope lies with Yuying and his incredible speed. Using his agility to weave through the enemy camp, Yuying dodges a barrage of attacks and reaches the base of the giant skeleton. Armed with a dagger blessed by a priest, Yuying begins a frantic assault on the Skeleton King's foot. Glock merely scoffs at the effort, calling it a boring, futile struggle. Without even deigning to look down, he waves a hand, sending a black shockwave that sends Yuying flying through the air. Yuying tumbles several times before slamming heavily into a burning siege engine, a surge of blood rising to his lips. As blood pools, we look back to see Lady Iris still kneeling on the ground, tears silently tracing paths down her face. In the void before her, that little boy is still running happily, the dandelion fluff shimmering brightly under the sunlight. She reaches out a trembling hand, desperate to touch the phantom, while her lieutenant shakes her shoulders with all his might. He cries out that it is merely the lich's sorcery, reminding her that young Master Alan has been dead for 3 years. Iris seems deaf to his words, her pupils fixed on that false meadow as an invisible thread winds tightly around her soul. On the walls, the other soldiers begin to waver, some drop their weapons, while others actually climb over the battlements. They try to rush into the skeletal horde to embrace their resurrected kin, only to be instantly torn to pieces. Someone screams, and panic begins to spread like a plague. We see Yuying grit his teeth and look toward the distance. Atop the skeletal giant, the lich Glock leisurely adjusts his cuffs, looking for all the world like a man watching a dull play. The players continue their assault on Glock, and though the Skeleton King's massive hand blocks every strike, it buys Yuying a chance. We wonder if Yuying can still move. He forces himself up, the blood on his chin already darkening in the wind. He mutters that he won't die yet, as he promised to make bone soup for his sister. Bone soup, of all things. The plan is simple, trip the giant. If he falls, Glock will be thrown from his high perch. Without his giant platform, the lich's vision and range will be limited, allowing the archers and mages to finally reach him. Yuying grins and wipes the blood from his mouth. Now, he thinks, that sounds like a proper plan. He grips his dagger tightly, but this time he doesn't rush the giant head-on, staying low to the ground instead. Using the smoke and piles of corpses as cover, he slithers like a snake toward the giant's rear flank. The Skeleton King is busy smashing the city's shield, oblivious to the tiny shadow reaching its left leg. He doesn't strike immediately, but waits in the shadows like a hunter waiting for his prey to show a weakness. The giant lifts its left foot to stomp forward once more, and in that split second, Yuying makes his move. Yuying slams his dagger deep into the joint of the giant's ankle, using the embedded blade as a pivot to vault himself high into the air. With a backflip, he kicks off the giant's heel with both feet, a strike that isn't heavy, but its timing is absolutely perfect. As the giant's left foot lands and its weight shifts forward, that sudden, slight interference at the ankle causes its stride to falter for half a second. It instinctively tries to adjust its center of gravity to stay upright, but Yuying has already darted toward the right leg like a mountain cat. He pushes off from the inside of the giant's right leg, simultaneously hurling an iron chain he scavenged from an engineering vehicle. The chain swings between the giant's legs. It won't bind those massive ankles, of course, but he doesn't actually need it to. The giant is already panicking to stabilize its shaky left foot when it senses something unexpected brushing between its legs. That visual distraction and instinctive flinch cause it to lean slightly to the left, and for a 100-meter-tall skeleton, that slightly is everything. The massive weight of its entire body presses down on those pillar-like leg bones, and the moment its balance hits the limit, the earth begins to shake. The left ankle bone begins to shatter, cracks racing up the tibia with terrifying speed as the entire structure fails. The colossal skeleton begins to tilt like a collapsing skyscraper, and we see Glock grab a bone spike on the shoulder in a desperate panic. For the first time, his calm expression vanishes as the giant hits the ground with a roar, sending a tsunami of dust across the battlefield. Bone fragments fly everywhere like shrapnel, and Glock is hurled from his high perch, crashing miserably into a pile of rubble. His staff falls away and his hood slips back, finally revealing a pale, ashen face twisted in pure shock. As a roar goes up, the archers and mages on the wall wake from their stupor, raining down arrows and fireballs like a torrential storm. Glock has no time to recast his spells, forced to roll through the dirt as his black robes catch fire in several places. Iris snaps out of her trance, seeing the fallen giant and the humiliated lich. The confusion in her eyes is instantly replaced by a cold fury. She retrieves her sword and raises it high above her head, the signal for the counterattack to finally begin. At the front lines, Batian Idao of the Batian Guild holds the position, his great shield blocking the zombies while his blade carves through their ranks. Behind him, Qinghuan Yuyu of the Qinghuan Guild stands ready, her staff waving as she unleashes a relentless barrage of ice and fire. A wave of zombies is instantly obliterated, while Li Na and Zhao Yu prowl the flanks, swiftly eliminating any stragglers to ensure the enemy has no chance to regroup. Glock, now stripped of his protection, struggles to stand just as Yuing draws his bow to its limit, unleashing a heavenly sword strike that whistles straight toward his chest. The lich lets out a wretched scream as his health bar plummets, his face turning as pale as parchment while he hisses that he will remember this humiliation. His eyes nearly bursting with rage, Glock spits out a final threat, vowing to grind Yuing's bones to dust the next time they meet, but he doesn't wait for a reply. He suddenly pulls a black teleportation stone from his robes and crushes it. A blinding dark light flares up, and Glock's silhouette begins to flicker. As he starts to vanish into the swirling dust, Iris shouts for him not to be allowed to escape, prompting Yuing to draw his longbow once more. 3 arrows fly simultaneously, precisely striking the ripples of the teleportation field, and Glock lets out one last piercing cry of agony. The teleportation is violently interrupted as an arrow pierces his left arm, blood spraying everywhere, while he casts one final, resentful glare at our hero. Without their commander, the zombies and skeleton soldiers instantly fall into chaos, stumbling about like headless flies across the ruined battlefield. On the walls, the soldiers break into cheers, the archers lower their bows and the mages stow their staves, long-awaited smiles finally returning to their weary faces. An officer approaches Iris and speaks softly, telling her that the spirit of young Master Allen would surely be proud of her today. Iris gazes at the distant horizon with a brief flash of tenderness in her eyes, before quickly reclaiming her stern authority as the city lord. She gives the order to clear the battlefield, treat the wounded, and reinforce the city gates and the protective magical shield immediately. Glock is still alive, so we cannot afford even a moment of complacency. Next time, she declares, they must ensure he never leaves the city alive. Yuing watches the direction where Glock vanished, his grip tightening on his bow, knowing full well that this is merely a temporary victory. The Lich's revenge will not stop here, and the crisis facing Evernight City has not truly been resolved, at least, not yet. And here we see the rewards. Congratulations on completing the Evernight City Limited quest, earning 5 skill enhancement scrolls and various attribute points, along with 9 potions and a single mythic-grade pet contract scroll. To be honest, the haul is quite impressive, especially that last item. This contract scroll is incredibly useful for Yuing right now, as pets in the world of Star Source function quite differently than in other games. In most games, one simply hatches an egg to get a companion, but in Star Source, a pet requires a soul-binding contract to truly serve. Without a binding contract, a pet might easily abandon its owner during a crisis, especially since in Star Source, once a pet dies, it is gone forever. There is no resurrection for them. Therefore, only a pet bound by a contract will wholeheartedly protect its master until the very end of the battle. We learn that Yuing had heard many stories of pets deserting their owners at critical moments, and of course, these contract scrolls come in different tiers. The higher the grade of the scroll, the more powerful the creature it can bind, and this mythic grade contract scroll is truly something special. It represents the highest possible tier, capable of binding any creature regardless of its rank. However, the Holy Resurrection Potions are just as valuable. Once consumed, the Holy Resurrection Potion lasts for 1 hour, providing a safety net that most players could only dream of possessing. If the user dies within that window, they automatically revive with 50% of their health and mana restored, a literal lifesaver, to be honest. But its true value isn't found within the game world. Rather, it lies in the reality that is slowly merging with the digital one. In the real world, this potion is essentially a second life, which is when it will truly shine. After stowing it away, Yuing consumes the 9 attribute potions. He feels his strength surging as the liquids take effect, bolstering his base stats for the challenges ahead. Next, we see him turn his attention to the 5 skill enhancement scrolls, applying every single one of them to his heavenly sword technique. The transformation is immediate, as the skill's effectiveness is vastly improved. Now, activating the heavenly sword requires only a single second of charging. It delivers a devastating strike to any target within range, dealing a staggering 1500% of his attack power as single target physical damage. It costs 1000 mana with a 2-minute cooldown. The charge time has been cut by a second, while the raw power has tripled, with the cooldown also reduced by 3 minutes. This upgrade provides a massive boost to his ability to eliminate high-priority targets instantly. Given his current attack power of 720,000, the maximum damage of Heavenly Sword, even without buffs, has now surpassed 10 million. To put that in perspective, a typical level 55 diamond rank boss only has about 10 million health. Imagine that power in your hands. From this moment on, he can theoretically one-shot a diamond rank boss on his own. Naturally, he can't help but grin before finally logging off, satisfied. As he emerges from the gaming pod, he is startled to find another figure in his room. It's Lina, though he has no idea when she arrived. She is just walking out of the kitchen carrying a steaming bowl of tomato and egg soup, and seeing him wake up, she offers a warm smile. Lina smiles brightly and tells him to come eat, naturally setting the table as if she had lived there for years. He sits across from her, noticing the soft look in her eyes. She mentions she woke up early to cook all his favorites. She brushes a stray hair behind her ear, acting casual, but he can't help but chuckle at the domesticity of it all. Lina glares at him playfully, not expecting him to suddenly speak up and break the comfortable silence. Just as they begin their meal, a knock at the door interrupts them. Outside stand 2 strangers, a man and a woman. The man is in his early 40s, built like a tank with a buzz cut and a face that radiates a sense of justice. The woman is in her 20s, athletic with sun-kissed skin and dressed for action. Lina heads over to answer the door. Lina asks who they are looking for, and the pair outside are clearly surprised to see her answering the door. They recover quickly, confirming her identity before stating they are here to see Lin Yi to discuss some urgent matters. Lin Yi walks out from the living room, and the moment he sees them, he feels a spark of recognition. He asks Lina to head back for now, promising to find her once they finish their chat. She nods and leaves without prying. Once she is gone, Lin Yi invites the two inside and closes the door. They take their seats, ready to talk business. The burly man takes the lead, introducing himself as Cheng Zhonghua and getting straight to the point. He introduces his teammate, Jiang Shuiwei, explaining they are both members of the Azure Dragon Special Ops from the Eastern Theater. Lin Yi raises an eyebrow. Their identities match his suspicions perfectly. Only the government could have tracked him down so quickly. We should remember that each continent manages its own servers, and the Asian server is firmly under the control of the Dragon Kingdom. Cheng Zhonghua and Jiang Shuiwei exchange a surprised look when Lin Yi doesn't seem impressed by their prestigious titles. He acts as if he didn't hear their rank at all, calmly pouring them 2 glasses of water and asking them to state their business. His indifferent tone irritates Jiang Shuiwei, who repeats that they are elite members of the Azure Dragon Special Ops. Lin Yi simply looks at her and asks, "Oh, and then what? What does the military want with me?" He adds that they surely wouldn't bully a law-abiding citizen like himself, a remark that leaves Jiang Shuiwei completely speechless. Beside her, Cheng Zhonghua can't help but laugh, admitting that Lin Yi makes a very fair point. He chides Shuiwei for her impatient temper, wondering when she'll finally learn to relax, before turning his attention back to our protagonist. Cheng Zhonghua gets honest, explaining that they've come because of the game's star source, which has become a matter of national importance. He asks if Lin Yi is indeed the player Double Strike, currently ranked number 1 on the global leaderboards, and Lin Yi simply confirms it. He admits it so casually that a flicker of admiration crosses Cheng Zhonghua's eyes. It's rare to see such honesty these days. The officer notes that Lin Yi's calm demeanor explains how he dominates the game, before explaining that Star Source is no ordinary RPG. It seems the game has the peculiar ability to grant its players certain special, real-world powers. Before Cheng Zhonghua can finish his cautious explanation, Lin Yi interrupts with a smile, cutting through the diplomatic phrasing. He tells them he already knows the game can physically strengthen a player's body in the real world, leaving the officers stunned. Meeting their shocked gazes, he stands up and, right before their eyes, performs a feat that defies normal physics. With a light hop, he presses his palm against the high ceiling, proving he has already received the game's feedback. At this point, Cheng Zhonghua and Jiang Shuiwei are utterly speechless, as this shouldn't even be possible yet. According to the server data, players aren't supposed to receive physical feedback until after their second job advancement. Cheng Zhonghua wonders if Lin Yi has somehow reached that level already, his mind racing through a dozen different theories in seconds. When he finally snaps out of it, the way he looks at Lin Yi has completely changed, realizing the young man is an anomaly. He explains that this situation differs from their intel, and he needs to report to his superiors immediately, stepping out in a hurry. Left behind, Jiang Shuiwei's gaze toward Lin Yi becomes complicated, a mix of confusion and newfound respect. Cheng Zhonghua returns shortly with a very serious expression, sitting down to ask a question that carries immense weight. He asks how Lin Yi managed to receive his feedback so early, and Lin Yi reveals it happened during the novice trials. It was just hell-level difficulty, Lin Yi says with a casual shrug, a remark that makes the corners of Cheng Zhonghua and Jiang Shuyue's eyes twitch in unison. We learn that countless hot-blooded soldiers from the military department had chosen that same difficulty, only to fail without a single exception. In fact, the military has now strictly forbidden soldiers from attempting the hell-level novice trial unless they receive a formal evaluation from a team of experts. Deep down, Cheng Zhonghua feels a sense of relief. As long as there is a logical explanation for Lin Ye's power, he is far less dangerous than a complete unknown. With his questions answered, Cheng Zhonghua's expression softens into a smile as he explains that he has already reported back to his superiors. Based on your history, Mr. Lin, we know you value your freedom, he says, which is why we want to invite you to become our Special Forces Chief Consultant. He quickly adds that Lin, you shouldn't rush to refuse, explaining that this particular position is designed to be as unobtrusive as possible. The role wouldn't interfere with his daily life or his gaming. It simply means that while he's in the game, he might occasionally offer a helping hand. He would only need to look after the country's interests when it's convenient, which, to be honest, sounds like a much more reasonable deal than Lin Yi expected. Lin Yi had intended to decline immediately, but hearing that the commitment is limited to the game, he decides to hear the officer out. Still, he can't help but ask if he'll have the right to refuse a request when the time comes, a question that Cheng Zhonghua answers with a nod. Of course you can refuse, the officer says, though he adds that they hope he will choose to lend his aid when the situation calls for it. In exchange, the state is prepared to grant Lin Yi certain high-level privileges in the real world, privileges that pique our protagonist's curiosity. These include the authority to mobilize Special Forces members and, more significantly, the legal right to use lethal force when necessary. A golden light flashes in Lin Ye's eyes as he immediately agrees, knowing all too well how much the world is about to change. He realizes that as game powers manifest in reality, the crime rate will inevitably skyrocket. It is the age-old problem of martial arts disturbing the peace. Once ordinary people gain extraordinary power, their ambitions and desires expand accordingly, and it's only a matter of time before extremists emerge. In his past life, he heard of many man-made tragedies that were far more horrific than the actual monster invasions. To be honest, it was a nightmare. He finds the government's proactive attitude and their willingness to delegate power quite comforting, as it shows they are preparing for the coming chaos. Only an administration this decisive can hope to protect the common people and minimize the devastating impact of the monster's arrival. After settling his thoughts, Lin Yi sends a quick message to Li Nai to let her know he's safe, then collapses onto his bed for a well-deserved sleep. At midnight, he enters the game right on schedule. With a flash of light, he appears inside the city lord's mansion and nods to a passing squad of guards. He immediately flies toward the teleportation array. Although he didn't bring back the Lich Glock's head, the fact remains that he defeated the beast. He wants to see if High Priest Arember will accept the mission as complete. Fortunately, the teleportation limits have refreshed for the day. Lin Yi arrives smoothly in Holy Light City and heads straight for High Priest Arember, who greets him with a calm, steady gaze. "Young man, what brings you to see me?" Arember asks, his voice kind and deep, yet carrying a faint, professional distance. Lin Yi doesn't waste any time and explains that he has defeated Glock, hoping to turn in the quest despite the lack of a physical trophy. Upon hearing that the Lich has been defeated, Arember offers a gratified smile, though a flicker of genuine shock crosses his aged face. Arember looks Lin Yi up and down, measuring him with a long gaze before finally letting out a deep, appreciative sigh. The High Priest nods seriously, noting that Lin Yi is truly worthy of being recognized by the descendants of the Guardians. "Your strength has completely met my expectations," he says, acknowledging that our protagonist is far more capable than he first appeared. Lin Yi asks about the follow-up mission, prompting Arember to reveal that in ancient times, this land was entirely free of demons. We learn that the very first demon to ever walk this world originated from a single man, a man named Valen. Arember speaks like a learned scholar, beginning a tale that stretches back to the very origins of the Star Source continent. He describes the dawn of the world and the devastating conflict known as the War of Gods and Demons that nearly destroyed everything. If Valen hadn't fallen and transformed into a demon, perhaps the glory of the Star Source continent would never have faded into shadow. "I have spent my entire life searching for the reason behind Valen's fall," the High Priest admits, his voice heavy with the weight of years. Recently, his search has finally shown some progress, but he requires a specific catalyst to uncover the final truth. He needs 20 souls from Diamond-level lords to serve as a foundation, a task that is as dangerous as it is essential. Since Lin Yi has already proven he can slay a Diamond-level Lich, Arember believes he is the only one capable of gathering these souls. Arember notes that since Lin Yi has already defeated Glock, he must surely have a way to hunt down even more of these powerful creatures. "Young man," the High Priest continues, "if you can help me find 20 souls from Diamond-level lords, I will grant you a generous reward and invite you to participate in the research experiments that follow." And so, High Priest Arember issues the next phase of the mythic level chain quest, the Star Sources Past, Part 3. The objective is clear. Help the High Priest collect 20 souls from diamond-level bosses to fuel his investigation. These souls will drop automatically upon a kill, and Lin Yi confidently assures him that he will find them very soon. I look forward to your return, Arember replies, adding that as a gesture of his sincerity, he has a gift for our hero. With those words, the High Priest produces a vial of holy light spring and hands it over to Lin Yi. He explains that he senses the aura of the holy light within Lin Yi, which, to be honest, is a rather high compliment. It suggests a certain destiny with his deity, and he hopes this holy light spring will prove useful in the trials ahead. Lin Yi accepts the gift without hesitation and, after bidding farewell, immediately injects the essence into the will of the angel. A system notification confirms the upgrade. His flight speed is projected to reach a staggering 80 meters per second. His flight altitude now reaches 4,000 meters, a height where, as far as he knows, very few things can touch him. Aside from specific flying targets, ground enemies will find him nearly impossible to reach, effectively making him invincible. Leaving the cathedral, he flies over the streets of Holy Light City and shouts a public inquiry for the Wanderer Guild leader's coordinates. He offers a piece of level 15 gold-grade equipment to anyone who can provide the location via private message. Since he's already here, he figures he might as well help the Wanderer Guild experience the joy of ascension firsthand. The moment his message hits the regional channel, the entire Holy Light City erupts in a frenzy of disbelief. Meanwhile, Jiang Shuiwe watches the chaos, wondering if they are even playing the same game as this man. While others are still struggling with basic material gathering, Lin Yi is already out collecting the heads of diamond-level bosses. Jiang Shiyue's response comes surprisingly fast, assuring Lin Yi that she will prioritize his request as the team's top mission immediately. However, he tells her that isn't necessary. They should focus on leveling up, as the real impact on reality only begins after the second job advancement. She wonders if she should ask him to carry them, much like he did for those top-ranked players, Laozi Shideishin and Yushu Qiongji. But since they haven't provided him with any real help yet, she finds it hard to ask, which, to be honest, is a fair point. After their exchange, Jiang Shuiwe quickly reports his needs, and soon every department within the Star Garden is alerted to the search. Whether they are part of the Azure Dragon Special Forces or not, everyone is looking for diamond-level bosses, even deploying specialized rogue squads. We return to Eternal Night City, where Lin Yi is preparing for the Northern Wheel Mountains when a sudden game announcement flashes. A player named Batian Xiaowang has unlocked a new dungeon, the Triant Jungle, now open to all players who have reached the entry level. He notes the timing of this new dungeon opening. It seems to be right on schedule with what he remembers. For players at this stage, the Triant Jungle is incredibly important, offering a wealth of experience for those under level 20. Once past level 20, the experience gains drop significantly, and just as the announcement fades, a message pops up in his friend list. It's Batian Yidao, asking if our great god can help their guild secure the first clear, promising that Lin Yi can name any price he wants. His first instinct is to refuse, as he certainly isn't hurting for money anymore after his recent exploits. Selling his previous drops earned him over 17 million in cash, and that was even after keeping most of his copper coins. He knows that soon, cash will be little more than waste paper. Star Source copper coins are the only currency that will truly matter. As for his top-tier gear, these rookies can't even wear it yet, so he decides to let the market simmer before making a massive profit. Because of this, the price Batian Dao is offering doesn't interest him at all, but just as he's about to decline, a memory flashes by. He recalls a legendary piece of equipment from his past life, wondering how he could have possibly forgotten it until now. That specific item is said to drop from this very Triant Jungle dungeon, and if that's the case, this trip might actually be worth his time. Having made up his mind, he sends a message back to Batian Dao. He wants 1 million copper coins for the dungeon run. He adds a condition. He gets first pick of the gear, but in exchange, he guarantees them the Hell level first clear, which, naturally, is a deal they can't refuse. Once the agreement is settled, he flies directly toward the coordinates. His upgraded angel wings are incredibly fast, bringing him to the Triant Jungle entrance in moments. We see the entrance is already swarming with players, most of whom belong to the Batian Guild, though a few outsiders and solo players linger nearby. His arrival immediately catches the attention of Batian Yidao and Batian Xuanzhan, who both rush over to greet him with wide, eager smiles. There is no trace of the usual authority one might expect from a guild leader and vice leader. Instead, they stand before him with total reverence. They look more like two loyal underlings than powerful executives, but Lin Yi hardly notices their expressions as he glances toward the waiting team. He asks if everyone is ready, telling them to join his party so they can finish this quickly. After all, he has a very busy schedule. As they prepare to enter the Triant Jungle, he selects the Hell level difficulty without a second thought, and the teleportation light begins to glow. With a flash, we find ourselves in a dark, dense forest where Batian Yidao asks for the strategy, promising that everyone will follow his lead. Lin Yi simply notes that for a mere level 15 dungeon, tactics are a bit unnecessary. They just need a few people to follow and pick up the loot. Before they can even process his words, he takes to the sky, hovering above the canopy to survey the twisted landscape below. A gnarled, distorted, withered tree catches his eye. Even for a hell-level dungeon, its stats are impressive enough to be a mini-boss in the outside world. To him, however, its health bar might as well be empty, and with a single fire cyclone, he sends a searing vortex crashing down. The target and several surrounding Triants are instantly reduced to ash amidst their dying shrieks. He simply tells the group to keep up as he flies deeper. While other guilds would be carefully pulling mobs and sweating over the normal difficulty, Lin Yi is treating the hardest setting like a casual stroll. Under his overwhelming lead, the dungeon becomes a one-man steamroller, proving that sometimes the best strategy is simply having a god on your side. Every monster and elite boss along the way is vaporized before they can even touch the team, leaving the Batian guild members with nothing to do but watch. Just as he promised, they only need to follow behind and gather the drops, reaching the deepest part of the jungle in less than 5 minutes. There stands a massive banyan tree that blots out the sky, its trunk rising like a divine pillar into the dark clouds above. Countless branches hang down like a heavy curtain, covering the entire area where the final challenge, the Triant King, awaits their arrival. We see the level 15 boss, the Twisted General, preparing to summon its minions, but its stats are truly something to behold. The members of the Batian Guild turn pale as they scan the boss's attributes. Clearly, this hell-level dungeon wasn't meant for mere mortals. Without Lin Yi there, they would have turned and fled immediately, but he simply activates Poseidon's watch with a completely expressionless face. A brilliant blue light pierces through the gloom, striking the Triant King's massive trunk with a force that defies logic. An astronomical damage number rises from the wood, followed quickly by a piercing, agonizing shriek from the ancient tree. Its health bar is vaporized in an instant, and a notification appears. The dungeon has been cleared, and rewards are being calculated. Since our team is the first to conquer the Triant jungle on hell difficulty, their names are about to be etched into history. A server-wide announcement rings out, congratulating Lin Yi and the Batian Guild for their unprecedented achievement. The guild members knew this would be easy, but they didn't expect it to be quite this effortless, which, honestly, is an understatement. The hardest difficulty in the game was conquered in barely 5 minutes, and Lin Yi looks like he hasn't even broken a sweat. He ignores the stunned expressions of his teammates, using his leader permissions to claim the specific items he wants from the loot. After that, he begins attacking the corpse of the Triant King, Yahello, recalling a peculiar thread he once read on the forums. Unlike other bosses, Yahello's body doesn't vanish. It remains behind as a towering tree, hiding a secret within its bark. He remembers a story about a player who stayed behind in the normal dungeon just to chop away at this very corpse. Once the tree was finally felled, they obtained an item called the Essence of Life, though its exact stats remained a mystery. All he knows is that it scales with health and is a growth-type item. He had nearly forgotten about it until today. Seeing that he still has work to do, the Batian Guild members tactfully exit the dungeon, leaving him alone with the massive trunk. He focuses his full power on the wood, chaining Cloud Sea Fury into Lightning Law, followed by a flurry of basic attacks and a final arrow. His attack speed is blistering, and his skill rotations are perfectly fluid, weaving standard strikes between his high damage abilities. In just a few seconds, he deals nearly 20 million damage, yet the trunk remains as solid as ever, as if his power barely scratched it. It felt as though he were hitting empty air, a sensation that lasted for 3 minutes until the trunk finally showed signs of breaking. 2 minutes later, the massive trunk collapsed with a deafening roar, revealing the fresh, glowing core hidden deep within. Upon use, this item permanently increases health by 100% and doubles the rate of health regeneration. He also gains the skill Towering Avatar, which doubles his physical size and provides a massive boost to his total health. The skill consumes 10,000 maximum health points per minute, a cost so steep that even Lin Yi finds himself staring in disbelief. The sheer value of this skill is impossible to ignore, so without a moment's hesitation, he immediately consumes the Essence of Life. A notification confirms the use of the Trent's Essence, instantly doubling his total health and his natural recovery speed. After acquiring the Towering Avatar skill and activating his new buffs, we see his health pool skyrocket to incredible heights. His health now sits at over 97,000, and the skill's duration has extended to 9 minutes. Clearly, this was time well spent. With his survivability significantly enhanced, he exits the dungeon, where Batian Dao is already waiting to greet him. The guild leader hands over the agreed payment of 1.2 million copper coins, which Lin Yi accepts before using a return scroll. Emerging from the teleportation point in Evernight City, he takes to the skies once more, flying toward the distant Beluan Mountains. With the speed boost from Angel's Will, he arrives quickly. Unlike the Undead Mountains, this range hasn't been touched by death. The peaks are lush and full of life, and though he doesn't know the exact location of the catacombs, he isn't worried. He knows most of the caves here are interconnected, primarily because they are inhabited by a massive population of goblins. These tunnels are the result of years of mining. In fact, over 80% of the continent's goblins live right here. Using the mobility of Angel's will, he soon reaches the southern slopes of the range to begin his search in earnest. It doesn't take long before he spots a small group of goblins in the jungle below who are visibly startled by his sudden arrival. Their leader watches him with deep suspicion, but Lin Yi knows that the best way to deal with goblins is to let money do the talking. He pulls a handful of copper coins from his bag and offers them to the leader, simply asking to be led to the nearest cave. The lead goblin's eyes light up at the sight of the coins, and he introduces himself as Lamanier, claiming he is delighted to serve such a noble guest. Lamanier's face instantly twists into a fawning, greedy smile as Lin Yi tucks the copper coins into the creature's arms and tells him to move quickly. "As you wish, my noble guest," the creature replies, and under the guidance of Lamanier's squad, we see Lin Yi quickly enter a dark cavern. The moment he steps inside, the air fills with the rowdy shouts of a large pack of goblins who believe they've just cornered a very wealthy target. They cackle about how much gold they'll steal and how many wives they'll buy, but as the noise surrounds him, Lin Yi only feels a cold sense of amusement. He hasn't forgotten the traps that countless players fell into in his past life. To be honest, he only followed them because he is confident in his power. Before the goblins can even launch their first strike, he decides to show them exactly why walking into this cave wasn't a mistake on his part. He decisively activates the Holy Surge skill from his armor, a powerful effect that triggers an explosion of light within a 10-meter radius. The skill deals 1,000 points of holy damage and stuns all enemies for 3 seconds, though it does come with a 40-minute cooldown. As a blinding flash of holy light erupts, the cave is filled with screams as dozens of goblins collapse, clutching their eyes in absolute agony. The intense light has clearly blinded them, but Lin Yi ignores their cries and walks straight toward Lamanier, hoisting the creature up by his collar. He tells the wretched goblin that he will pay for his stupidity, and then he turns his gaze toward the others still writhing on the ground. With a casual gesture, he casts Pale Thunder, and with a deafening boom, the screaming goblins are instantly reduced to nothing but charred remains. Lamanier turns pale with terror as he dangles in Lin Yi's grip. Our protagonist doesn't actually care if the creature lives, he just needs a guide. He commands the goblin to lead him to the tribal chief, and under the threat of death, they begin navigating the winding, narrow tunnels. They soon emerge into a relatively spacious underground grotto, where the surrounding goblins watch them with looks of utter confusion and fear. Following Lamanier, he finds an elderly goblin with hair as white as snow, who is introduced as the leader of the Great Clam tribe. The old chief senses Lin Yi's overwhelming aura and immediately abandons any thought of resistance, asking how he might serve such a powerful lord. Lin Yi gets straight to the point, telling the chief that he needs the tribe's help to find a specific dark elf by the name of Float. The moment that name leaves his lips, every goblin in the cavern undergoes a visible change, their faces twisting with sudden, sharp apprehension. It seems the name Float is a taboo among the goblins. The dark elf has apparently lost all remnants of his sanity. He is now a ferocious beast wandering in the shadows, and the chief laments that many of his kin have died by his hand. Lin Yi frowns slightly at this news, and we see him open his quest log to study the details once more. Finding no new clues, he decides to simply find the target first and demands to know how to track him down. The chief explains it is quite simple. Float has claimed the dark lands of the crypt as his personal territory. If one simply stays within those dark lands for a certain amount of time, Float will eventually come to find them. Lin Yi nods, and after asking the goblin chief for a few more specific details, he finally turns to leave. Leaving the tribe behind, he follows the chief's directions and heads deeper into the winding tunnels of the cavern. He isn't worried about being deceived. If the chief lied, he could simply return and wipe out the entire tribe later. The path inside the mountain is narrow and steep, and we can clearly feel the descent into the depths of the earth. As the path drops further, the number of forks in the road increases, but he remembers the chief's specific warning. As long as he is in the darkness, he cannot escape Float's pursuit, so he simply continues deeper to wait for the encounter. And so, he continues his descent into the gloom, waiting for the beast to make the first move. Suddenly, an attack lunges from the dark so quickly that evasion is impossible, forcing him to activate his damage reduction. Enveloped in holy light, he takes a hit of 354 points before lunging forward to escape the enemy's immediate reach. Only now, with the help of his torchlight, can we see the attacker, a female elf crawling on all fours with a savage expression. Her features are strange and distorted, looking more like a humanoid cat's face than a typical elf. She wears tattered leather armor, and the skin exposed beneath it is a sickly shade of purple and gray. This is the unmistakable complexion of a dark elf, and we see her status panel reveal her as Float in her beast form. She is a diamond rank threat at level 50, possessing lethal skills like Beast Pounce and Frenzied Blood. Night shadows, fear, and screams. This is the Float we were looking for, and the guttural growls tearing from her throat make one thing clear. The current float is obviously not in a mood for conversation, and while Lin Yi considers his options, the dark elf launches another feral attack. This time, however, he is prepared, using the grip of divine wrath to pin her directly to the ground as she roars in fury. Her limbs thrash wildly as if she's lost her mind, her crimson eyes locked onto him, and though Lin Yi frowns, his hands don't hesitate. He unleashes a sequence of cloud sea raging waves and heavenly thunder punishment, followed by a rapid flurry of basic attacks. His original intention was to lower her health until she regained her senses, but to his surprise, even as her life force dwindles, and she is left with only a fraction of her health, Float's roars do not stop. Instead, she begins to break free from the grip. He faces a dilemma. If he kills her, his quest clues will vanish. To be honest, this was not part of the plan. Just as a sense of urgency sets in, his gaze suddenly locks onto a specific detail in her status panel, beast form. A flash of inspiration strikes him, and he reaches into his inventory to pull out the mythic-grade pet contract scroll he obtained earlier. Since Float is currently in a beast form, he wonders if she can be treated as a wild creature, and if so, the scroll should work. If he can successfully bind her as a pet, she will stop attacking, giving him the time he needs to investigate the next steps. While this means using a rare mythic-grade scroll, he reasons that as long as the hero's tower exists, he can find another. Besides, having a dark elf as a permanent companion isn't exactly a waste of such a powerful item, all things considered. Deciding to act, he immediately uses the mythic-grade pet contract scroll on the bloodied and weakened Float. A system prompt appears, asking if he wishes to contract the dark elf Float in her beast form as his personal pet. He confirms the choice, and we see the scroll begin the binding process as the system tells him to wait a moment. The scroll in his hand dissolves into a burst of iridescent light, surging forward and sinking deep into Float's trembling body. Float's eyes bulge as she lets out a piercing, agonizing scream, her struggles becoming even more violent than before. But the colorful light surrounding her remains unshaken, finally transforming before our eyes into a set of glowing, seven-colored chains. The light merges completely into Float's body, and the system confirms that the mythic-grade pet contract scroll has taken effect, successfully binding the dark elf. In her feral beast form, Float is immediately teleported into the pet space as the game notifications flash across the screen. At the same moment, a system announcement echoes across the entire Star Garden continent, informing all players that a milestone has been reached. Because the player Lin Yi was the first to contract a pet, the pet ranking leaderboard has officially been unlocked for the server. As a reward, Lin Yi receives 10 free attribute points, 100 reputation points, and a specialized item. He also obtains a pet talent upgrade pill, and back inside the Dark Crypt, he decides to summon the Dark Elf Float once more. This time, she doesn't launch a feral attack like before. Instead, she crouches obediently by his side, her messy hair brushing against him. She rubs her head gently against his leg, leaving Lin Yi a bit speechless as he tries to ask if she remembers anything from her past. Float simply tilts her head, her large eyes looking at him with total innocence, and through the pet system, we sense her utter confusion. Lin Yi's expression twitches as a bad feeling takes hold. It seems this fierce warrior might have actually forgotten everything. He returns Float to the pet space and leaves the Dark Crypt as quickly as possible, eager to put the gloomy cave behind him. After flying out of the North Wheel mountain range, he finds a clear pool in a valley and releases Float once again. He tosses her directly into the water, and as she screams and tries to scramble back to shore, Lin Yi's expression darkens. Using the grip of divine wrath to keep her still, he begins to wash the filth from her skin himself, though he soon grows quite embarrassed. Even in her beast form, Float possesses the physical traits of a female dark elf, which are quite distinct from their surface cousins. Unlike the youthful grace of ordinary elves, the dark elf's figure is far more striking, causing Lin Yi to stop abruptly and stand up in awkward silence. Once the control of the grip wears off, he expects her to flee the pool, but to his surprise, she doesn't seem to mind the water anymore. She even begins to wash herself, which makes him hopeful that the shock of the water might be triggering her lost memories. That hope vanishes instantly when she suddenly lunges and catches a fish in her mouth, leaving Lin Yi staring in disbelief. Realizing her instincts haven't changed, he looks away and decides to check her status panel instead. Perhaps the answers lie there. Seeking a solution, Lin Yi opens Float's status panel through the pet menu, and his gaze is immediately drawn to a specific icon. It is a double-sided arrow labeled Form Switch, a feature for dual-state pets that allows them to freely toggle between beast form and human form. His eyes widen as he realizes the switch was right here all along, and having seen enough of her feral side, he decisively presses it. A system chime announces that his contract pet, the Dark Elf Float, has successfully completed her transformation. In the pool, Float, who was busy catching fish, suddenly stiffens as her beastly traits rapidly recede in less than a single breath. Suddenly, a female dark elf with a striking and enchanting figure stands before him, having fully returned to her human shape. As she transforms, her consciousness gradually returns, and her amber eyes clear as the confusion is replaced by a sharp intelligence. She turns her gaze toward Lin Yi at the water's edge. A flicker of shame and anger crosses her beautiful face, yet she speaks. She calls him master with total sincerity. Such is the power of a mythic-grade scroll over any creature below that rank. It ensures absolute loyalty, even from the now lucid Float. Seeing that she can finally communicate, Lin Yi quickly reaches into his bag. He tosses her a set of leather armor, telling her to dress first as he has questions. Float says nothing and catches the gear. A shroud of dark energy rises around her, and by the time it dissipates, she is fully clothed in the armor he provided. Lin Yi sits on a large rock by the pool and gestures for her to approach, mentioning he encountered a man named Vanliner. He explains that before Vanliner died, he sent Lin Yi to find her. The news of his death hits Float like a physical blow. Her expression becomes dazed for a moment as she processes the loss. She stares intently at Lin Yi before finally speaking. She confirms that he indeed carries Vanliner's magical aura. Lin Yi nods and casts a fire cyclone onto the nearby clearing. Watching the flames, Float begins to reminisce about how she and Vanliner once escaped their cage together. He was unfortunately captured and suppressed, while she intended to return to the Dark Elf ancestral lands for help. However, she became lost within the underground corridor. Through her story, we finally understand why she had been acting like a beast. It was the corrupting influence of that very corridor, a place Lin Yi had heard of once before, and not in a pleasant context. We learn that Lin Yi has heard of the underground corridor before. In his past life, players sought a rare hidden class there, the Night Dark Elf Warrior. As a warrior himself, the memory of that quest is etched deeply in his mind. He asks Float if she still intends to return to her ancestral lands. Float shakes her head with a bitter expression, admitting she can't go back. To be honest, her situation is more dire than we first thought. During the time she was lost and feral, she managed to lose the key to the ancestral land's entrance. Without it, the way is barred. Unless that key is found, she will never reach her home. Float turns her gaze toward Lin Yi and asks if her master can help her find it. Suddenly, a system chime rings out. The Dark Elf Float has issued a mythic grade chain quest, Restoring the Star Source, Part 2. The objective is clear. Find the ancestral key that Float carelessly lost during her time wandering the underground corridor. Hearing the game notification, Lin Yi's expression becomes a bit strange. It isn't every day your own pet starts handing out high-level assignments. While the difficulty is immense, he knows he must accept. Refusing would mean losing all clues for the subsequent parts of the quest line. He agrees to help, but asks what he stands to gain. Float's purple-gray face flushes slightly, with a very human-like hesitation. She stiffly reminds him that she is already his contracted beast, and once they reach the ancestral lands, she can use its power to boost his strength. Lin Yi nods, finding her answer acceptable. With the business in the Billowin Mountains finished, we see him prepare for his next destination. He needs to visit the Undead Mountains. The life box of the demon Glock is still hidden deep within the Undead Crypt. If he doesn't destroy it now, the creature will eventually find a way to return and cause more trouble, which, naturally, he cannot allow. He tells Float it's time to go and level up. A moment later, we find them standing outside the entrance to the Undead Crypt. He releases Float from the pet space and switches her to human form. She looks around, feeling a bit dazed by the sudden change in scenery. Then, as if realizing something, she asks why he had turned her into her beast form earlier. Lin Yi gives her a playful look. He matter-of-factly explains that since she was acting shy, he figured the beast form would save her the embarrassment. A logical solution in his mind. He then decides that Float is too difficult to pronounce and tells her he'll call her Izzy from now on. She instinctively wants to protest, but the deep-seated loyalty in her soul takes over, and she simply replies, "Yes, master." It seems AZ is starting to get used to her new life. She felt a wave of indignation, yet deep down, there was a strange flicker of joy. Lin Yi told AZ to stay close behind him as they prepared to move. He promised to help her level up, and with that, we see them enter the Undead Crypt. It hadn't changed much since his last visit, to be honest. Densely packed monsters still occupied every inch of space, but now, Lin Yi welcomed the crowd. A single fire cyclone was enough to incinerate them all. Under his relentless slaughter, AZ's level began to soar like a rocket. By the time they had cleared just the first floor, her progress was remarkable. She had already reached level 14. Without pausing for a moment, Lin Yi led the way deeper into the darkness, and they soon reached the 7th floor. By this point, fueled by a massive influx of experience points, AZ had reached level 30. As a diamond-grade pet, her growth was truly exceptional. Her attributes already far surpassed those of most ordinary players. Moreover, Lin Yi discovered a very practical advantage to having her around. She could help him collect loot. Thanks to her shadow space skill, she didn't even need a backpack to store the equipment they found along the way. The monsters on this level were cleared out in no time. We see AZ skillfully darting around, gathering every dropped item into her shadow space. When they finally crossed the passage, they were met by an unremarkable stone chamber. They had reached the bottom of the crypt at last. As Lin Yi and AZ approached, the heavy stone doors suddenly creaked open. A burly, imposing figure emerged from the shadows to block their path. A low, guttural voice echoed from the creature, accompanied by a thick, putrid stench of decay. It demanded to know who dared intrude upon this place. This was a level 45 diamond grade abomination. It was clear that the demon Glock had left this monstrosity here specifically to guard his life box. Fortunately, Lin Ye's skyward strike required very little charging time. In just 1 second, the energy was fully gathered and ready to be unleashed. A flash of azure light streaked through the air, and the massive abomination collapsed instantly. He had successfully slain the diamond-grade boss. He obtained a diamond-grade soul shard for his efforts. Lin Yi then told AZ to get rid of the corpse, much to her visible disgust. AZ looked absolutely repulsed by the task, but she obeyed her master nonetheless. Using her shadow space, she initiated a spatial swap. She dumped the massive carcass onto the floor above, pausing to collect the dropped gear and items. Lin Yi covered his nose and entered the room. He found the stone chamber completely empty. He wondered if the life box was actually hidden elsewhere, as there was nothing in sight. However, AZ spoke up, claiming she could sense a lingering aura of death in a specific direction. She pointed toward one of the chamber walls. Intrigued, Lin Yi approached the wall and searched it carefully until he discovered a hidden compartment. Inside, a purple-black box radiating a faint aura of death appeared. He grinned, drawing his bow to destroy the life box. Suddenly, a phantom appeared, none other than the lich Glock, whom he had defeated before. He looked quite desperate, actually. Reduced to a mere soul after his heavy injuries, Glock was clearly terrified that Lin Yi would destroy his very essence. To a necromancer who turned himself into a lich, nothing mattered more than survival. Seeing Lin Yi lower his bow, Glock felt a momentary relief. He begged Lin Yi to leave this place, promising him vast treasures in exchange for his life. A classic bribe, of course. Lin Yi paused, a new idea forming in his mind. He looked at the phantom and asked if he truly wanted to live. Glock froze, carefully considering Lin Yi's expression. Lin Yi then gave him 2 very simple choices. He could either submit or die right now. To emphasize the point, Lin Yi aimed his arrow directly at the life box. Without a second thought, Glock agreed to submit. It seems his survival instinct was far stronger than his pride. Lin Yi then demanded his soul mark, pointing the arrow directly at Glock's face to ensure there was no misunderstanding. Glock's expression shifted uneasily. He knew perfectly well that handing over his soul mark meant giving Lin Yi absolute power over him. With a single thought, Lin Yi could end him. Sensing the hesitation, Lin Yi warned him that his patience was wearing thin. He began to count to 3, but skipped straight from 1 to 3. Glock nearly jumped out of his spectral skin. Terrified by the sudden jump in the count, Glock frantically agreed. Lin Yi simply told him to hand over the mark. Though reluctant, Glock honestly condensed his soul mark and sent it floating toward his new master. A notification confirmed that he had obtained the lich Glock's soul mark. Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Yi chose to bind it. As the mark merged, a faint, ethereal connection formed between him and the lich. The contract was sealed. Lin Yi decided to store the life box in AZ's shadow space, promising to help Glock reconstruct his body when the time was right. After AZ tucked the box away, Lin Yi returned her to the pet space and crushed a return scroll to leave. Using the return scroll, Lin Yi arrived back in Evernight City. This excursion had yielded far more than he ever expected, starting with AZ, his new diamond-grade humanoid pet. But perhaps the greater harvest was subjugating the lich Glock. In the real world, monsters had already begun their invasion, and he knew he couldn't be everywhere at once. To a certain extent, he needed someone to guard the things he cared about. After all, a man in his position has many responsibilities to consider. While he couldn't bring himself to trust others, a lich whose soul mark was firmly in his grasp was a different story. That, he felt, was something he could rely on. He mused that if Glock could command 100 frost dragons by his side, the security would be more than enough. To be honest, that might be a bit of an understatement. Just then, a message arrived from Jiang Shuiwe. She informed him that her people had located a diamond-grade boss and were requesting his assistance. Lin Yi opened his map and saw the coordinates were near the Undead Mountain range. This area happened to be well within his current firing range. He told her to have her personnel wait a moment and then pick up the dropped equipment for him. With that, he activated the eye of the cabin. He followed up with his signature skill, Heaven's Clip. Upon receiving his reply, Jiang Shuiwe was left utterly confused. Why did her people need to pick up the gear? Wasn't he coming to fight the boss himself? As she wondered why he wouldn't collect it personally, her communication device began to flash frantically. It was the squad leader who had reported the boss earlier. He sounded breathless as he explained that the diamond-grade boss had just been insta-killed. An arrow had flown in from nowhere and simply erased the boss from existence. Jiang Shuiwe froze. This, she realized, was why he told them to just pick up the loot. We returned to the real world as Lin Yi stepped out of his gaming cabin. The sky outside was already bright, and he made his way to the kitchen. He quickly prepared a bowl of instant noodles, but as he was eating, his phone rang with an unknown number. It was Jiang Shuiwe calling him directly. She asked if he had a moment, explaining that her people had discovered a very strange location near his residential complex. They had already cordoned off the surrounding area, and she wondered if he could spare some time to go and take a look at it. Hearing her words, Lin Yi felt a stir of interest. As a regressor, he understood perfectly well what she meant by a strange place. He He told her to send the specific coordinates and promised to head over immediately. After finishing his noodles, he wasted no time and headed out the door. The location Jiang Shuyue provided wasn't far, only about 500 meters away in a straight line. Even with the winding sidewalks, it was barely a kilometer. Within just a few minutes, he found the cordoned-off area. At this moment, the perimeter was heavily guarded by personnel in uniform. We see the cordoned-off area surrounded by a crowd of curious onlookers, while a police officer with a megaphone tries to disperse them. He claims they are hunting a dangerous fugitive and urges everyone to leave for their own safety, but the crowd shows no sign of thinning. Instead, they excitedly debate what kind of criminal would require so many special forces. Lin Yi pulls an ID from his pocket and approaches a squad leader. He asks the officer if he recognizes the credentials. The officer immediately salutes, addressing him as Consultant Lin and mentioning Captain Jiang. She had already notified them, and he is told he can enter at any time. As he nods and steps past the line, the crowd begins to speculate about his identity. After all, they had just seen the squad leader show him such immense respect. Once inside, Lin Yi is led by an officer toward the anomaly. They soon arrive at the heart of the disturbance, a restaurant's back kitchen. The floor is a mess of scattered pots, pans, spilled soup, and a few drops of blood. In the very center of the kitchen, a pale purple vortex spins slowly. Its depths are pitch black, looking very much like a void that could swallow anything. Seeing this vortex confirms his suspicions. It is indeed a heart-origin dungeon that has manifested in the real world. Monster invasions from the subconscious are divided into two types. The first is a direct invasion by wild monsters, which is far more chaotic. It is exactly like the wild cat he encountered before, sudden, without warning, and often resulting in heavy casualties. The second type, however, is different. This is a dungeon invasion, where the game world manifests as a specific instance in reality. In this case, monsters do not appear immediately. They only swarm out to slaughter humanity if the dungeon isn't cleared within a set time limit. To be honest, it is a ticking time bomb. The dungeon before him is exactly like that. If left alone, the creatures inside will eventually pour through the portal and devastate the surrounding area. Fortunately, this one was discovered early, and Lin Yi has already regained a portion of his in-game power. Just then, the officer speaks up. He announces that the Azure Dragon Special Forces have arrived. A group of fully armed soldiers approaches, looking quite formidable. The leader stands 2 meters tall, built like a literal iron tower. The 5-man patrol stops directly in front of Lin Yi. The leader reports that the first squad of the Azure Dragon Special Forces is ready and awaits his instructions. Lin Yi feels a flicker of awkwardness. He isn't quite used to this level of formality yet. He tells them he has already examined the vortex and that it isn't a major crisis. He explains it is likely just a low-level dungeon from the Star Garden, and they simply need to clear it. The man built like an iron tower nods. The man built like an iron tower looks at him with a flicker of doubt, wondering how Consultant Lin could have analyzed the situation so quickly. Lin Yi asks if they've played Star Garden, pointing out that the vortex looks exactly like the game's dungeon portals. A fair point, really. After taking a closer look at the swirling energy, the soldiers realize he is right. Since it is a dungeon, they decide they must investigate. However, before anyone steps through, they need to verify the safety of the environment inside. Standard procedure, of course. The leader pulls a drone from a teammate's backpack and launches it. We see the small craft dive headfirst into the purple vortex. Inside these dungeons, most technology is severely weakened, and electronic communication is usually cut off entirely. Just as Lin Yi expected, the moment the drone enters the vortex, the leader's handheld device loses the connection completely. The leader hesitates, glancing at Lin Yi. Suddenly, one of the squad members steps forward, volunteering to go in alone to scout. The leader refuses, insisting it is too dangerous to send someone in before they know what they're dealing with. As the group continues to argue, Lin Yi watches with a touch of impatience. He decides to take matters into his own hands. He calmly reaches over, grabs a folding blade from a soldier's tactical pack, and tells them to keep talking while he goes ahead. Before they can stop him, he dives into the portal. The leader cries out in alarm, shouting for the team to protect Consultant Lin. Without a second thought, the giant man and his squad charge in after him, leaving the local police officer outside looking utterly bewildered. After a brief moment of dizziness, Lin Yi feels his feet hit solid ground. He has successfully crossed over into the instance. Before him sits a massive manor, looming like a sleeping beast in the shadows. Behind him, the 5 soldiers materialize one by one. The leader is clearly frustrated, telling Lin Yi he was far too reckless and asking what they would have done if something had gone wrong. Lin Yi ignores the lecture, focusing instead on his memories of this place. It doesn't take long for him to recognize the layout. He remembers it well from his past life, a famous low-level dungeon known as the Night Demon Manor. A system notification rings in his ears, announcing that he cannot leave until the dungeon is cleared. He remains perfectly calm. To be honest, he expected this. The Special Forces members, however, look pale. They realize the rules of the game now apply to reality. The appearance of the Star Garden system prompts leaves the men in shock. The leader, built like an iron tower, quickly notices how calm Lin Yi remains. He speaks up, asking Consultant Lin if he seems to understand the situation here. Lin Yi simply replies that he knows a bit more than they do. He admits he doesn't know the true cause of this phenomenon, but that hardly matters now. The situation has already escalated. Since they followed him in, he offers to lead them through the dungeon. But first, he asks for their names. A reasonable request, all things considered. The massive soldier snaps to attention and introduces himself as Giant Bear. Lin Yi simply tells them to follow him and prepare to fight. We see Lin Yi pick up a handful of pebbles from the ground before walking ahead. Giant Bear, concerned, quickly tries to hand him a rifle. Lin Yi refuses the weapon. Instead, he points to a small sapling nearby and tells the soldier to try and shoot it down. Though confused, Giant Bear follows the instruction and unleashes a burst of fire. What happens next leaves the entire squad in complete disbelief. The rifle bullets strike the small tree, but they only leave shallow marks. The expected splintering and destruction simply do not occur. Everyone is stunned by the sight. Lin Yi calmly explains that in this place, firearms are less effective than a single pebble. To prove his point, he casually tosses one of his small stones. In the next moment, the little sapling is struck with incredible force. The pebble snaps the tree clean in half. He explains that here, only cold weapons and physical projectiles can exert their full power. He advises them to drop their electronic devices and heavy firearms to lighten their load. It is a strange request, but the evidence is clear. The soldiers begin shedding their high-tech gear, keeping only their combat knives and bayonets. Lin Yi watches, satisfied with their cooperation. He leads them deeper into the manor. They've only gone a few steps when low growls echo from a side path, followed by a sudden movement. 3 night demons, crawling on all fours with razor-sharp teeth, emerge from the shadows. Simple status windows hover above them. Low-level night demon. Giant Bear and his men tense up instantly, drawing their knives to protect Lin Yi. He merely smiles, unfazed by the approaching monsters. With practiced precision, he flicks a pebble at the first night demon. The creature's body suddenly ruptures upon impact. It's as if he had fired an anti-material sniper rifle rather than throwing a stone. The demon screams, collapses, and stops breathing after a brief struggle. Giant Bear and the others stare, their eyes nearly popping out of their heads. It died just like that? The night demon they feared was gone in an instant. The ferocious aura radiating from the demons made the men brace for a brutal war, yet a single tiny pebble was all it took to end one. As the seemingly fierce night demon fell, 2 more stones whistled through the air, sending the remaining creatures collapsing with a final wail in under 4 seconds. All 3 demons blocking the path were dead, an efficiency that, to be honest, would be considered legendary even within a video game. He simply told them to keep moving as he ventured deeper into the estate, and a moment later, the group arrived before the manor's grand entrance. Pushing open the heavy doors, they found a vast courtyard where a massive night demon stood waiting in the center. It stared them down with blood-red eyes full of murderous intent, and as Giant Bear's squad saw the title Night Demon King, they froze in terror. Lin Yi, however, felt nothing of the sort. He stood at the threshold and calmly aimed his crossbow at the king, releasing a soft click. The bolt struck the Demon King squarely in the chest, forcing a shrill, agonizing scream from the beast as its entire body suddenly stiffened. To Giant Bear's utter disbelief, the massive creature collapsed into a heap, followed by a chime announcing they had cleared the Night Demon Manor. The system listed their rewards: basic life recovery potions, basic mana recovery potions, and agility attribute points. Compared to the actual game, the rewards from these real-world incursions were meager enough to make anyone sigh in disappointment. However, clearing these dungeons has one distinct advantage. The items produced can be used directly in the real world, like the life recovery potion. For an ordinary person, a single bottle of this elixir could literally pull a dying man back from the brink of the grave. The mana potion, meanwhile, could keep a person energized for days without sleep, while the agility point appeared as a shimmering silver orb. Without a moment's hesitation, he absorbed the silver light into himself, feeling his agility attribute increase by 1. He then handed a bottle to the soldiers, suggesting they give it to their researchers so they could stay awake and focused on their work. He promised that just a drop in their water would guarantee 12 hours of tireless labor as he pressed the mana potion into Giant Bear's hand. After a brief wave of dizziness, the group found themselves back in the restaurant kitchen, where the portal had vanished entirely. The dungeon was cleared, meaning the monsters would no longer invade reality, and Giant Bear and his men bowed deeply to Lin Yi. They addressed him as Consultant Lin, preparing to return and report, now completely won over by the sheer display of his power. With a simple nod of farewell, Lin Yi left the cordoned area and headed home, while the special police officers guarding the perimeter received word from Giant Bear. The blockade was quickly lifted, and the area soon bustled with life again, though some locals wondered why they hadn't heard a single gunshot during the supposed raid. Naturally, no one could answer that question. Meanwhile, back at home, Lin Yi found himself frowning as he realized something rather unsettling. Both monster incursions had occurred very close to his location, forcing him to consider if he was the reason these creatures were appearing ahead of schedule. Perhaps it was because he had already obtained 10% of his projected power. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Without wasting a moment, he picked up the phone and called Zhang Shuiwei, who answered almost instantly, asking how he could help Mr. Lin. It was time to move again. Since his presence might be triggering these invasions, he decided he simply could not stay in this neighborhood any longer. Zhang Shuyue's efficiency was truly impressive. After hearing Lin Ye's request, he managed to handle all the paperwork in just 2 short hours. He informed Lin Yi that they owned an independent villa in the Fenglin Annex and told him he could move in immediately. He added that Li Na could go as well, as he had already prepared identification documents for both of them, which would be delivered shortly. After hanging up the phone, our protagonist went straight to Li Na's place and knocked on her door to deliver the news. Upon hearing that he wanted her to move in the middle of the night, Li Na initially refused, thinking the idea was completely insane. However, the moment he connected the incident with the wild cat to the game, Li Na suddenly became much more cooperative. She was shocked to learn the cat was related to the game, and equally stunned by how much he knew, though he clearly wasn't in the mood to explain. She wasn't the type to pry, and deep down, she understood he was doing this to protect her, which, for her, was more than enough. With a playful roll of her eyes and a smile, she told him he actually had a conscience before pulling out her car keys. By the time the two of them had settled into the villa, it was already late at night. Eventually, a preset alarm woke him from his rest. He got up to wash his face, and then prepared to enter the game. With a flash of light, we see his figure reappear within Eternal Night City. Checking his messages, he found a note from Zhang Shuyue mentioning she had the gear and items dropped by the boss and was waiting to deliver them. He glanced at the screenshots of the loot and, seeing nothing particularly rare, simply replied asking her to convert it all into gold instead. Just as he was closing his friend list, Zhang Shuyue happened to log on. Seeing him active, she immediately sent over several sets of coordinates. It turns out her team had located 5 diamond rank bosses while he was resting. He was delighted. The power of an official organization was truly something else. It was certainly more efficient than wandering around aimlessly on his own. She confirmed that people were stationed at each location to update the coordinates in real time. He told her to have them ready to collect the loot and send him screenshots. Anything he didn't personally need should be converted into gold. While selling gear to the authorities might be less profitable than a public auction, Lin Yi didn't particularly care about the difference in profit. The amount of time these official scouts saved him was worth far more than a bit of extra gold. Zhang Shuyue quickly sent a confirmation. Using the Eye of Haotsong and his powerful sword skills, he systematically cleared out all 5 bosses across the map. A busy afternoon, to be sure. To his surprise, one of the giant wolf bosses dropped an incredibly rare item, a diamond rank pet contract scroll. He immediately requested that she deliver the scroll in person while converting the rest of the loot into gold as previously agreed. Soon, Zhang Shuyue appeared in Eternal Night City to hand over the gold and the precious pet contract. We see her approaching him with professional ease. Her class was a combat-oriented one like his. Though she was a standard hunter, her specialized leather armor gave her a distinct, rugged appearance. There was a certain wild elegance to her look that caught his eye for a moment, though she didn't seem to notice his brief distraction. Her focus was entirely on the diamond rank scroll. She asked if he would consider selling it to the Special Operations Department instead. He simply replied that he intended to give it to someone else. Zhang Shuyue gave a knowing look, as if she had expected that answer all along. After their exchange, he headed to the city lord's mansion. Iris maintained her usual cold and regal aura, yet she visibly brightened the moment she saw him. She greeted him warmly, and he wasted no time asking if she knew where he could find a hidden class for the warrior path. Iris noted that he wasn't a warrior himself and correctly guessed he was looking for a gift. To be honest, she was quite perceptive. She explained that while she didn't have a diamond rank scroll for a hidden class there, she knew exactly where one could be found. The Imperial Royal Academy. Upon hearing this, Lin Yi paused for a moment as the realization began to sink in. It made perfect sense, really. As the premier institution for training the Empire's elite, it was the most logical place to find such a rare profession. And then, she shared some rather interesting news. She had already secured his admission qualifications, meaning he could leave at any moment. He was now free to head to the Imperial capital to undergo the necessary trials. It was a perfect opportunity. Lin Yi laughed heartily, telling Iris she was truly his lucky star while expressing his sincere gratitude. To be honest, she deserved the praise. Iris chuckled softly in return, telling him just not to embarrass her at the Imperial Royal Academy. He assured her his strength wouldn't fail him. After leaving the city lord's mansion with a recommendation letter in hand, he didn't linger. Our protagonist headed straight for the teleportation array. He arrived in the Imperial capital shortly after. Even though he had visited in his past life, the sheer scale of the city was still breathtaking. We see the palace soaring into the clouds, wide avenues branching in every direction, and a bustling crowd that never seemed to thin. The sheer density of the NPCs and the grandeur of the architecture made every other city look small by comparison. A coachman approached, asking if he needed carriage service. Lin Yi requested a ride to the Imperial Royal Academy, and the man happily obliged. The coachman enthusiastically invited him aboard and drove steadily toward the academy. A little later, the carriage came to a smooth halt. They arrived at the gates of the Imperial Royal Academy, a structure so magnificent it practically radiated the Empire's power and vitality. About a dozen students were already lining up at the entrance. They noticed his arrival, though most didn't give him a second glance at first. However, the moment he produced Iris's recommendation letter, the atmosphere shifted. The looks directed at him changed instantly to pure shock. They whispered, wondering which noble family he belonged to, especially since word spread that his letter came from the great Iris herself. Lin Yi overheard their chatter, but his attention turned to an elderly guide who approached him with a knowing smile. The old man explained that the others were talented youths without recommendations who had to rely solely on raw talent to enter. He noted that only true geniuses received such letters. But then, the old man realized Lin Yi was a descendant, a player. The elder froze mid-sentence, clearly stunned, before quickly regaining his composure. He introduced himself as Carlos. Carlos admitted he found descendants fascinating and, quite unexpectedly, asked if Lin Yi would be willing to become his personal disciple. This caught Lin Yi completely off guard. In his past life, he had only heard of the academy and had never actually set foot inside. Lin Yi had always assumed the Royal Academy focused on group classes, but it seemed there were opportunities for private tutoring as well. When he didn't answer immediately, Carlos didn't seem to mind, simply noting that the young man was still new to the academy's inner workings. He told Lin Yi to find him once he settled in, then handed over the completed enrollment forms and pointed toward the martial arts arena. Lin Yi nodded respectfully, thanking mentor Carlos and promising to pay him a visit when the opportunity arose. A polite gesture, certainly. After bidding Carlos farewell, he quickly made his way to the arena, where a staff member directed him to the line for the offense defense department. Following the instructions, he joined a queue where 3 students were already undergoing their trials under the watchful eye of an instructor. The instructor spoke with great conviction, declaring that only the most dazzling stars were worthy of the Empire's endless resources. His words stirred a visible excitement in the candidates. The first student stepped forward immediately, confidently drawing his bow and nocking an arrow. The boy announced that his effective range was 1,200 meters, and as the words left his lips, he released the arrow toward the distant targets. We see that these targets aren't confined to the arena. Instead, a series of marked pillars stretch far out into the distance. The furthest pillar was placed at the very edge of the campus. That first student's 1,200 meters, as it turned out, barely cleared the first mark. As the first pillar lit up, confirming the student had met the minimum distance requirement, the instructor gave a small, approving nod. He noted it was a decent pass and immediately stamped the student's qualification certificate. It was a start, if not a spectacular one. The first student left beaming with joy, and the 2 who followed him also managed to pass their entrance exams for the department without issue. When it was finally Lin Ye's turn, he took the instructor's earlier words to heart and decided to state his current capabilities quite plainly. He calmly informed the mentor that his current effective range was exactly 8,287,719 meters. The instructor could only stammer in disbelief, but Lin Yi didn't waste time talking. He picked up a practice bow and fired toward the horizon. With a sharp whistle, the arrow vanished instantly, and every single pillar, stretching all the way to the skyline, lit up in rapid succession. The stunned instructor, whose name was Hannibal, immediately asked if Lin Yi would be his disciple. Our protagonist, however, politely deferred for now. Hannibal was impressed by his composure and, since there were no other candidates, offered to personally lead him through the final registration process. Lin Yi mentioned that as a descender, he couldn't stay at the academy every day and wondered if that violated any rules. Hannibal replied without a hint of jealousy that with enough strength, one could stay away for a year without issue. He then noted that their department's strongest student was a fellow named Lot, who had apparently already reached his 3rd job advancement. Along the way, Hannibal patiently answered every question, leaving Lin Yi to marvel at the mentor's overwhelming sense of responsibility. Of course, Hannibal's overly attentive behavior didn't go unnoticed by the other students, who began to speculate wildly about Lin Yi's identity. Word quickly spread that a student with a powerful background had joined the offense defense department. As a new recruit, Lin Yi also received his starter supplies, a Royal Academy uniform, and a skill book for his specific profession. To be honest, it was quite a standard welcome kit. He also received a silver-grade level 30 weapon selection box. These items were of little use to him, however. He tossed them into his inventory, planning to sell them for cash later. He then asked Hannibal about the Academy's hidden profession advancements. He wanted to know where to find them. Hannibal, still acting like a loyal attendant, noted that Lin Yi certainly didn't lack confidence. He explained that hidden professions weren't exactly a rarity at the Royal Academy, provided one had the talent to back it up. He pointed toward a massive structure in the distance, identifying it as the place where students could seek out those rare paths. Looking at the grand building, Lin Yi felt a surge of excitement. He thanked his mentor, and, before another word could be said, he dashed off like a wild horse. A notification chimed, announcing his entry into the Profession Inheritance secret realm. The system prompted him to choose his desired inheritance. He realized this was the legendary realm he had only heard former students whisper about. Now, he was experiencing it for himself. Following the system's guidance, a pale blue light screen shimmered into existence before his eyes. Without hesitation, he selected the offense defense category. Once the main branch was chosen, rows of specialized professions began to list themselves. His gaze was sharp as he scanned the options for his specific path. He quickly found his target, the unique Fortress Shrine Inheritance. But as he clicked on it, things took an unexpected turn. The words missing components filled his vision. He suddenly realized that perhaps, because his profession was so unique, the path wouldn't be so simple. He realized that because his profession was unique, the standard inheritance path had vanished, leaving him to wonder how he could possibly complete it. He considered where to find the necessary quests, but decided to ask Mentor Hannibal later, closing the offense-defense inheritance screen for now. Instead, we see him open the warrior-type inheritance list. Compared to other paths, he understood the warrior class far better than most. After all, in his past life, he had been a warrior himself. One specific hidden profession had left a lasting impression on him back then. He remembered it being called something like Akala. He scrolled quickly through the hidden warrior list and soon found the entry for the Akala King. The Akala King possessed a powerful physique, incredible survival skills, and unparalleled abilities for initiating combat and protecting allies. His eyes lit up. This was exactly what he needed. To be honest, it was the survival capability that he valued above all else. Having watched Lina die in his previous life, he was determined not to let that tragedy repeat itself. He already had the answer in his heart. He decided this was the one for her. As he made his selection, the environment of the secret realm began to shift and transform around him. A moment later, a dragon turtle as massive as a mountain appeared before him, its golden eyes staring down with ancient intensity. A deep, resonant voice echoed from the creature, challenging him to show his strength by either breaking its shield or surviving its assault. It told him that if he could endure for 30 seconds, he would pass the trial. As the words faded, a brownish-yellow light erupted from its shell. A massive shield bar suddenly appeared over the dragon turtle's head. With the shield active, its aura surged with intense magical fluctuations. It was clearly preparing to attack, but Lin Ye's expression remained unchanged as he unleashed God's Wrath Grip to pin the creature's head down. He followed up with a relentless combo right to the creature's head, chaining Sea of Clouds and Raging Waves in quick succession. He added Pale Thunder, Twin Heavy Swords, and Heavenly Strike, weaving in basic attacks with practiced ease throughout the entire sequence. Under this overwhelming assault, the dragon turtle's health and shield bars vanished almost simultaneously. It was a staggering display of power. If not for the protective rules of the secret realm, the creature would have been destroyed. It stood frozen, its gathering magic quickly dissipating. The dragon turtle was baffled, asking why a marksman like him was even bothering to challenge the warrior class inheritance. Lin Yi simply raised an eyebrow, noting that since it wasn't difficult, he might as well take it. The dragon turtle could only retreat in silence. The dragon turtle sighed, opening its massive mouth to drop a scroll wrapped in an earthy, ochre glow, telling him to take it and get lost. With those parting words, the creature's form slowly dissipated, the secret realm dissolved, and we see Lin Yi return to the selection space. Having secured the class change scroll he wanted, he had no desire to linger, exiting the realm and immediately seeking out Mentor Hannibal. Hannibal was surprised to learn he had already changed classes to a unique hidden profession, which explained a great deal. The mentor admitted that as a standard instructor, he couldn't help with such a rare path, but he believed the principal certainly could. When Lin Yi asked where to find him, Hannibal noted the principal was usually in his office handling affairs at this hour. Under Hannibal's guidance, we see them quickly arrive outside the principal's office to seek the answers Lin Yi required. The principal, a man named Lawrence, confirmed he held the method for the class transfer, but he required a favor in return. He promised to hand it over once the task was done, and when Lin Yi asked for details, Lawrence claimed it was quite simple. He wanted Lin Yi to kill someone, Iris, the city lord of Evernight City. Yes, a simple assassination of a major figure. A formal quest notification appeared from Lawrence, the dean of the Royal Academy, tasking him with the death of City Lord Iris. The reward was the second transfer method for the God's Offense-Defense path, but Lin Yi stood there in complete shock. He had expected a difficult trial, or perhaps a hunt for a notorious villain, but he never dreamed Lawrence would target her. To be honest, Iris was more than just a figure to him. She was his best friend, his comrade in arms, and his greatest love. Lin Ye's face went cold as he told Principal Lawrence he couldn't accept the task, turning to leave without looking back. As they walked, he asked Hannibal about Lawrence's current strength, his voice devoid of any warmth or emotion. Hannibal felt the young man had been reckless, but admitted the principal had completed his 5th transfer 8 years ago. Lin Yi calculated that with his current leveling speed, he might actually have a chance to take the man down in half a month. Hannibal warned him that such an attitude would surely infuriate the principal, but Lin Yi didn't seem to care in the slightest. Meanwhile, Lawrence grumbled to himself that the boy had made off with his favorite student, so a little trouble was only fair. Lawrence muttered that the boy would eventually come back to beg him, while Lin Yi left feeling quite frustrated after hitting such a wall. However, he didn't let anger cloud his judgment. The most important task now was delivering that class change scroll to Lina. With monsters beginning to invade the real world, Lina's safety was more critical than ever, so he quickly finished reporting to Hannibal. After leaving the Royal Academy, we see him use the capital's teleportation array to arrive swiftly at Holy Light City. Upon arrival, he didn't go to Lina immediately, but instead opened his friend list to find the scout who had tipped him off before. He asked for the current coordinates of the player known as God of Games, and the scout replied that he was keeping a close eye on him. The scout provided the leveling coordinates, and Lin Yi thanked him, promising to send over some escape gear later as a reward. Closing his friend list, he flew out of Evernight City and activated the eye of the cabin to illuminate the area where his target was hiding. With the help of his guild members, God of Games had already reached level 17, and while not yet back on the leaderboards, he was close. The man urged his team to move faster, determined to hit level 18 that very day, a bold ambition, to be sure. Suddenly, God of Games looked up toward the sky, feeling as though someone was watching him, and his expression shifted to one of pure dread. He realized too late that one arrow, two marks had found him, and before he could log out, an arrow streaked from the horizon. The arrow hit with surgical precision, and a massive string of damage numbers erupted over the head of God of Games. His companion, Elu, and the others watched with wide eyes as God of Games collapsed instantly, receiving the notification of his death. A system message confirmed he had been killed by Lin Yi, losing another level and leaving him with a face twisted in absolute fury. Vowing to kill Lin Yi, the enraged player chose to log out on the spot rather than respawn at the city fountain. He had been spawn-camped before. After all, emerging from his gaming pod, he immediately kicked a servant who had rushed over to assist him. The servant lay on the floor in pain but didn't dare make a sound, as the young master's expression was truly terrifying to behold. God of Games trashed his room in a fit of rage before finally screaming out his hatred for Lin Yi, demanding his death. He called for his subordinates, ordering them to immediately investigate the real-world identity of the man who kept ruining his life. He ordered his men to find Lin Yi's real-world address, suspecting the Tyrant Guild might have information, and told them to spare no expense. The young master demanded results at any cost, consumed by a humiliated rage that drove him to seek a lethal revenge outside the game. Meanwhile, Lin Yi was actually impressed that God of Games knew enough to hide in the underworld to avoid pursuit, though it wouldn't save him. He had no sympathy for a player like God of Games, whose presence only ruined the experience and balance for everyone else in the world. After dealing with that nuisance, we see him call over the zoo director to hand off some equipment, as his inventory was becoming quite cluttered. What was useless to Lin Yi was considered a rare treasure by others, and after sending the director away, he finally contacted Lina. He sent her a simple message telling her he had something special to show her and asked her to meet him just outside the city walls. Lina arrived quickly after receiving the news. Thanks to Lin Yi boosting her to level 30, her life in the game had changed significantly. She no longer needed to grind for survival and had spent her time exploring Holy Light City as he had suggested. "So what is this surprise?" she asked. With a bright smile, she wondered aloud if it was new gear or perhaps one of those recently discovered contract pets as she approached him. She struck a playful pose, hand on her hip, demanding to see the gift and promising a reward if it was truly high-quality gear. Having lived 2 lives, Lin Yi wasn't one to get flustered, and he joked back that he hoped the reward wouldn't be something boring. Lina teased him for his lack of seriousness, but his expression shifted as he pulled out the hidden class change scroll he had mentioned before. He handed her the immovable Wisdom King scroll, and the look of shock that washed over Lina's face was impossible to hide. She could hardly believe he had actually obtained it, especially since she had spent her free time reading the game's forums lately. One of the most heated topics among players on the forums was the mystery of hidden classes. As levels increased, the gap between ordinary and hidden classes only grew wider. Currently, 70% of the top 100 players on the leaderboard held hidden classes, which spoke volumes about their sheer power. However, obtaining one was notoriously difficult, and the few methods shared on the forums were enough to make anyone's head spin. Even at level 30, the requirements Lina had read about seemed utterly impossible, let alone for a player at level 10. At that moment, Lina was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions, struggling to process the magnitude of the gift Lin Yi had just given her. Previously, she had always viewed him as a younger brother, but we can see that those feelings were beginning to shift into something else entirely. Lina teased him, warning him not to back out of his promise, though she jokingly told him not to expect any easy rewards for his kindness. She playfully asked if he really dared to try and take advantage of his older sister like that. As a flash of light faded, a strange expression settled on Lina's face. Lin Yi noticed her silence and asked if something was wrong. Without a word, she shared the quest details for the immovable Wisdom King class, which required her to absorb 10 billion points of damage within a single day. The quest came with a blessing. She wouldn't die from the damage during the trial, but even Lin Yi was momentarily stunned by the sheer scale of it. He awkwardly offered to give her a few more items to help, as he hadn't expected the class change requirements to be quite so blunt. It was essentially a quest to become a human punching bag, and the conditions were incredibly harsh. For anyone else, this would be an impossible task. But for our protagonist, it wasn't actually that difficult. His heavenly arrow could easily deal tens of millions of damage in a single shot. With his other skills providing continuous output, he calculated that they could reach 10 billion in half a day. A perfectly reasonable afternoon, really. However, wasting half a day doing nothing else wasn't his style, so he picked up Lina and flew directly out of Holy Light City. They returned to the same high-level area where he had boosted her level before, a place teeming with powerful monsters. The density of enemies here would allow him to help Lina accumulate damage while simultaneously stacking his own talent attributes. It was a classic case of killing two birds with one stone, or in this case, a few thousand monsters. Lina realized her passive role was essentially acting as a monster magnet, but since she couldn't die, she figured she might as well lean into it. The only downside was that the monsters here were so high level that their attacks didn't count toward her quest. Only Lin Ye's damage would suffice. Accepting her fate for the sake of the hidden class, she gave him a playful eye roll and charged screaming into the nearby monster camp. Her entry was like dropping a massive boulder into a calm pond, instantly stirring up a tidal wave of aggression from every monster in the vicinity. Lin Yi timed his move perfectly, first launching a heavenly arrow at her and then enveloping her in a massive fire cyclone to maximize the hits. The monsters began to fall in heaps like wheat before a scythe, and we see Lin Ye's own talent stacks beginning to climb at an incredible speed. While the fire cyclone raged on, Lin Yi took every opportunity to strike Li Na with his Pale Thunder and Cloud Sea Raging Wave skills. Whenever those skills entered cooldown, he supplemented the damage with hard work and double heavy swords, shooting at her with relentless effort. On the receiving end, Li Na was becoming incredibly excited, laughing that the monsters didn't hurt at all and the sensation was thrilling. She laughed loudly, completely abandoning her ladylike image as she charged through the monster mobs, protected by her damage-absorbing staff. The surrounding monsters were furious, yet they couldn't leave a scratch on her. The two continued this grind for over 3 hours. Once Li Na signaled that she had absorbed enough damage, Lin Yi finally led her away, his own talent stacks now exceeding 900,000. As he approached the million-stack milestone, Lin Yi set her down and suggested she submit the quest to see the results of the class change. Li Na was just as eager and immediately submitted the task, causing a brilliant radiance to envelop her body as the transformation began. The new traits were formidable. She would now absorb 60% of frontal damage and 30% of damage from the sides and back. This absorbed damage would be stored as vitality, which could be released actively or triggered automatically upon receiving a fatal blow. Any amount exceeding her maximum health would convert into a temporary shield, a mechanic that even Lin Yi found staggering despite his past life's knowledge. We can see why the immovable Wisdom King was considered the strongest shield warrior in his previous life. The power was undeniable. The sheer ability to convert incoming damage into stored health was enough to crush almost any other defensive class in existence. Before he could even process his shock, a sudden system announcement chimed, notifying all players that a second-class advancement had been detected. The system announced an emergency maintenance period that would last for 24 hours to accommodate the new world changes. Every player was given a mere 1-minute warning before a forced logout would occur, which is a rather short notice by any standard. As the countdown ticked away, the sudden announcement sent a shockwave through the entire online player base. Players instinctively checked the level rankings and were stunned to see that the top spot, one-click double standard, had dropped to second. The player, Lao Zishu Dao Shan, had claimed the #1 position. Meanwhile, Lin Yi woke up in his gaming pod and immediately grabbed his phone. He dialed Jiang Shiyue's number, and when she answered, he told her calmly that there was something important he needed to inform them about. He warned her to prepare immediately, as the game update would finish in 24 hours, and players who had reached their second advancement would begin receiving feedback of their in-game powers into reality. His voice remained calm. This was inevitable, something that was bound to happen sooner or later. He knew he couldn't change the outcome, so he told her that the best they and the officials could do was minimize the impact of this transition. Even saving just a few lives would be a victory. On the other end of the line, Jiang Shuyue had sensed the gravity of the situation when she logged out. But hearing it confirmed by Lin Yi made her heart race with tension. She asked him what he thought the official response should be to handle this best. After a brief moment of silence, he admitted he didn't have a specific blueprint, but he could offer a very serious warning. He told her that from today, the era had changed, and they must prepare for the day when conventional weapons would become obsolete. He suggested establishing special units everywhere, emphasizing that in this new world, a person's character would be more important than anything else. With that, he hung up the phone. Sitting in his gaming pod, he began to recall the chaos of his previous life, where human hearts proved to be far more terrifying than any monster. In his past, even the official ranks were plagued by traitors who caused immeasurable damage. Countless geniuses were cut down by their own people before they could even rise. In that life, he had been helpless, unable to even protect those close to him. But this time, he possessed the power to defy fate itself. From this moment forward, things would be different. Starting with those around him, he would ensure that regrets remained in the past and that traitors never found the opportunity to strike. He closed his eyes and focused. A second later, a simplified attribute panel appeared in his consciousness, showing his skill list. 2 familiar skills were already active, the Eye of the Void and the Law of the Void. It was time, he realized, to exercise the power to kill. We don't know exactly what Jiang Shuiwa told her superiors, but less than 15 minutes after the call, there was a knock at his villa door. When he opened it, he found two Special Forces members standing there, familiar faces from the Night Demon Manor raid, Zhu Xiong and Chong Wei. Both men were carrying silver-white suitcases and greeted him with smiles. They were old acquaintances, in a manner of speaking. Once they were seated in the living room, Zhu Xiong and Chong Wei placed the cases on the coffee table and addressed him as Consultant Lin. They explained that Captain Jiang had sent these weapons for him. As they opened the cases, Lin Ye's gaze shifted to the contents. Inside the two suitcases, we see 3 weapons resting alongside 2 identification documents, several loaded magazines, and a high-end rifle. There were also 2 handguns, which the men explained were sent by Captain Jiang specifically for Consultant Lin to use for self-defense.